Hey, this is Arena Books Book Talks. This is our short version of our spoiler cast, where you find out all the juicy details, what we love, hate, and are otherwise ambivalent about in the fiction that we read. And we stick mostly to sci-fi and fantasy. And we have just discovered N.K Jemisin. She's written a couple of trilogies, but we are starting with her new trilogy. It's called The Fifth Season. Not to be confused with Five Seasons, the Ritzy Hotel that doesn't come crumbling down in earthquakes, kind of like everything in this book actually does do. So the fifth season is one you don't want to experience. I'm joined by John, and I will learn how to talk, and I'm Josh, and we're going to talk fifth seasons, which hasn't finished. So this is the first book, great book. It has earthbenders, Sith Jedi, some Yoda-type people. It has some evil pirates and hedonistic pirates and people on the coast who don't know what, their own good. They shouldn't be living on the coast when there's an earthquake every, 50, 100 years. So fifth season is a great story. And John, you say it's up there with the all-time best fantasy we've read?
Oh my gosh, Josh, it was like playing Sim City, but with real people. They could make the earth go up and down, and there was social commentary.
I think you just summed it up in a nutshell. So what we have here is, a really great book with the premise that has earthbenders for all intents and purposes who are super powerful and they're controlled by the normals. So it's kind of a backward thing, it may be a metaphysical statement on how people are afraid of mutants. You got the whole X-Men mythology, throw in your X-Men, throw in your Avengers, and people are scared of the powerful people. But they're actually slaves. And their magic school for slaves is called the Fulcrum. And the characters in the story, granted, this is a spoiler cast, so we'll get to it, but we meet the little one who is almost broken because of this horrible, kids, trying to get each other kicked out and get each other killed in this Fulcrum. So, but basically they have to go here. Why? Because if you're a rogue earthbender, or their actual real names are Origins, and if you're a rogue, they'll hunt you down and kill you. These evil guardian Sith Lords, just called guardians in this book.
The book was chock full of social commentary, and I certainly am not going to make light of this at all, because how do you address as an author a lot of the current social problems we have today without preaching and beating people over the head about what's actually going on today? I think N.K Jemisin did it effectively here, because these supers, if you will, the Origins, they had these powers. They were different, and therefore they were rejected by everybody else. Okay, and they were kept down, and they were suppressed, and they had slurs. They would call them ragas instead of Origins, and it was a nasty word. And sometimes they would use it amongst themselves, but a lot of times all the normal people would call them the same thing. I mean, there's a direct correlation to what I just said and what we know happens in our society today. And I can let the listener or the viewer draw their own conclusions. Later on in the story, they find a whole community where the Origins are accepted. They allow them to be in charge. They don't treat them any differently. And that community has been surviving fifth season after fifth season because they embrace their differences, work together. And the social commentary is in your face, but it's in this science fiction fantasy kind of setting. And just kudos all around to N.K Jemisin for being able to pull off that level of commentary without being preachy and making it directly correlated to everything we know about today.
Yeah, this book flips a lot of your expectations upside down on their head, because you have one graduate of the Fulcrum School who's totally, brainwashed or sold or accepting of the fact that she has to do lots of things she doesn't want to, including having kids and then giving them away so they can be trained in the Fulcrum. So really nasty lifestyle. But there's a lot of world building, a huge backdrop, an incredible world. It's a character-driven story, because you got the kid going through the school, you got the graduate of the school, and you have this older Origin who's escaped and is in hiding, but she's trained and sufficiently good at camouflaging what she is. And the whole context of the story is, at the beginning, we think this one continent, which funny enough is called the Stillness, and it's never ever still, because it's always earthquaked or tsunamied or anything, and it's split in half, and someone intentionally does it. So cool giant backdrop, but set in these three women's stories. And then Jemisin does something which is the biggest spoiler of all, which is at the tail end, the latter half, she actually reveals this is the same woman. So your entire expectations, you immediately rewind. You're like, holy Toledo. So great fiction, not just because of the fantasy she created, but because of us looking at this one character in a different light and realizing she has changed fundamentally and she has grown instead of being broken from all these for lack of better words, experiences as a slave and being repressed and surviving, assassinations and all kinds of things.
Holy floating obelisk, Batman. You're absolutely right. And not only did we realize she was the same person later on in the story, we had that verified anyway, but I realized at the end of it, we got a very clear picture over a broad span of years, okay, that kind of showed what was going on in this world. Okay, it wasn't just one person and they're age 20 something and we kind of see them go to age 30 and 40. We got a very broad view as we went throughout the story. And we also got a broad view of what it was like to be involved in the fulcrum and be an origin. We saw it from childhood. We saw it from teenage years on into the 20s. And then we saw it later on in the 40s and 50s and how that changed this woman as she went along. Those were 3 distinct phases of her life that we went through. And it had a lot of impact. I mean, that really affected her and changed her. She evolved as a person and went through a lot of drama.
Yes, pitch perfect. The pacing is spot on, and we have a great ensemble cast of characters. So we highly recommend this. Ends in a cliffhanger, but oh well. This is not a commodity. It's not a box of chocolates where you get to eat all of them and say, oh, that was good. You get to wait and find out what happens, but this woman's story is sufficiently awesome to show you some deep meaning in decisions and personal character and courage and all that. So I'll let you have the closing parting thought, John.
Spare the rod and spoil the raga.
You just said a bad word. That's it for the Rain of Books Book Talk. Join us next time. Watch the podcast at rainofbooks.com, as in the rule of what? The
books.
written word? Rule of books, not the weather.
Age reigns supreme.
That's it. See you guys.